Hello friends, welcome back to our channel DevOps Consultancy and Solution. In this video, we will learn about Azure Board and go deep dive its features and explore various processes like basic, agile and Scrum. So the question is, what is Azure Board? So Azure Board is a web-based service that enables teams to plan, track and discuss work across the entire development process. Azure Board supports agile methodologies and provide customizable platform for managing work items and allowing teams to collaborate effectively and streamline their workflow. So next is the Azure Board Hub. So if we go to the Azure Board Hub, so you can see various features. So first is the work item. So work item is basically it helps you to access list of work items based on your specific criteria, such as like if the tickets are assigned to you or it is owned by someone else, so you can view and update the work items based on that. So next is the board. So board is basically the where you can see the work item as the card and update their status through drag and drop, like. So next is the backlog. So in the backlog you can view, plan or order or organize your work items, including your product backlog to represent your project plan, and portfolio backlog to group work under features and epics. So in any project we have the portfolio backlog, so where we have the epics and we define the features under that backlog. So each portfolio backlog has product backlog which represent user stories. So user story has multiple tasks, right, and the issues. So next is the sprint. So in the sprint view you can access your team's work item based on your specific sprint or the iteration path. So next is the query. So query feature helps you to generate the custom work items and helps you to perform the various tasks such as track work or make bulk updates, etc. Right? And next is the delivery plan. So delivery plan is basically very helpful for management teams to view the deliverables and track the dependencies across multiple teams. You can view those deliverables in a calendar view. Management can track and see the progress of different teams. Next is the analytics view. So it helps you create the Power BI report. So Azure Board work items can be integrated with the Power BI and easily you can see the reports into the Power BI. So you can see how many work items are there, how many issues are reopened. You can create your own custom dashboard. Right. So in Azure Board, there are 4 different processes. Like one is the basic, another is Agile, so another is Scrum, and the another last one is the CMMI. If we check the basic process has the portfolio backlog, which we normally define it as the epic, and in epic it has the product backlog. So product backlog has the issues, right? So in issues you can define multiple tasks. So similarly in the agile board or in the agile process you have the epic, and inside the epic you have the feature which will part of the your portfolio backlog. So sometimes some guys don't create the epic, they create the features, but best way is you create the epic and inside epic you have the different features, right? And in the product backlog you have the stories and the tasks, right? And issues can be tracked with the bugs or the normal issues. Similarly in the Scrum process you have the epic and the features as the portfolio backlog, and then under that you have the product backlog items, and each product backlog item can have multiple tasks and issues can be tracked with the bugs or the impediment. And last is the CMMI process. So in CMMI process the portfolio backlog has similar same like epic and features, and product backlog has requirement and task. So each requirement has multiple tasks and issues and the change management risk, and that can be tracked with the change request or issues or risk. So now we will go to the Azure board and create the different projects with different processes and see how we can create the different work items like epic features and issues tasks, and then how we can track them. Here I am in my Azure DevOps portal. I already logged in with my account. This is my organization name, DevOps Consultancy and Solution, and I have one project here, DevOps CNS. First, I will create a project with basic process. Then I will create a separate project for Sprint, Agile, and CMMI, which is Capability Maturity Model Integration. So let's go and create the project. So I will click here on the new project. I will give the name of the project demo for basic process, right? I will select the project as a private and work item will be the basic. So I click on the button create. Now the project has been created. So if I click here on the Azure board, so it has different features like as I explained earlier. So work item where you can access all the work item based on your criteria. Next is the board where all the work items can be listed as a cards and you can drag and drop and change the status. Next is a backlog view where you can plan and order your organization work item. And next is a sprint view. So in the sprint view, you can check the your work item based on your sprint and drag and drop those work items to change its status. So next is the queries which generate a custom work item list and perform various tasks. And next is the delivery plan, which for delivery plan is for management team where they can view the deliverables and track dependency across multiple teams. And next is the analytics view, which is where in which you can connect with your Power BI and generate the Azure dashboard reports in the Power BI. Right? So in any project, first we create the backlog item, then we plan the sprint and assign the user stories to the sprint and then track those user stories. Right? So if I click here on the sprint, so here you can see. So here you can see I have the sprint 1. So from here I can add the multiple sprints, right? Or the other option is I can go to the project setting, click on project configuration, and here also I can add the multiple sprints. So I can click here, new. So here I can add the multiple sprints, right? So if I go back to the Azure board, so first what I will do, I will create the backlog and then we will add the task into the sprints, right? So in the backlog item, so here you can see there again it mentioned the sprint 1. From here also I can add the sprint. First I will close it and add the backlog. So if you want to view back the sprint 1, so you can click here on the option. So you can click here on the planning and the sprint planning will you can see. So I will close it. As I explained you earlier, so in the basic process, the portfolio backlog has epic and the epic has the issues which we normally call it as the product backlog and issues has the tasks. First we will create the epic and then we will add the issues in that. So in the drop down you can see issues and epics are there. So I will select the epics, right, and click here to create the new work item which will create the epic. So epic, first epic I will create the continuous security. Right. So I add here, click here, the epic has been created. So let's create couple of epics and then add the issues in those epics. Let's say I will create another epic here, continuous integration. Let's add another epic, operation readiness, and another epic I will add, compliance and governance, right? So I have created 4 epics. So here you can do the drag and drop and change the location of the epic. So which epic you want to first? Security. So first it will be the continuous integration, security, operation readiness. So you can do drag your epics up and down, right? So let's say create the couple of issues in that. Next to the continuous security, if I click on the plus button here, I can add the issues. So let's say add the first issue as the static code analysis, right? So when I create the issue, so this is the default page. So I can give here the state will be the to do. So description I will just add the same static. I'm not giving much detail, so because for the demo purpose I'm just trying to show you how you can create the epic, how you can create the issues, and how you can add the task into various issues, right? So next I will add the efforts. So efforts means in how many days you can complete this task. So based on your process, whether you are managing your process based on the number of working days or based on the story points. So let's say if I'm using the working days, so I can complete this complete issue in 8 working days. Let's say I add the effort 8, right? So I can click here, save and close. I can add the another task. I click here, sorry, issue. Next issue is the dynamic code analysis. Let's say because I'm doing the analysis for this one, let's say I add the 6 working days, right? So here, so if you note here, if I click here on the issue, if this issue is automatically assigned to the sprint 1 iteration, right? So let's add couple of tasks in these issues. So in the static code analysis, if I click here, I can add the task next to the issue. If I click here, I can add the task. So here I can add the task, which is the environment provisioning. So again, in the description, I just give the same. So in the remaining work, so I will add here remaining work as the environment provisioning, give the, let's say 2 days, right? And the activity I can define here, whether it is a development, design, deployment, documentation requirement, or testing. So let's say whatever your activity type is, you can give the activity type here, right? And in the right panel, you can attach this task to a particular pipeline, which is your pipeline here, or you to the Azure repository. So currently I don't have any repository. Here you can attach it to the Azure repository or the pipeline. So you can see this task is also attached to the sprint 1. Right? So I click here on the save and close. So let's add few more tasks into this issue. So I will quickly add. So I added few tasks into the first issue, which is a static, and let's say I will add the another task inside this dynamic. So tool analysis, I give here the 6. So let's say I will give here, assign here the activity documentation, because we are doing the analysis and create the document. So let's say give that one. So let's add the another issue here. So I will add the issue intra ID SSO integration. So I give the effort here 4. I add couple of tasks inside this. Right. So now if you can see, I have created this epic continuous security. Inside this continuous security, I have created 3 issues: static code analysis, dynamic code analysis, and intra ID SSO. Right. And in this first issue, I have added 6 tasks, and similarly in the second issue, I had 1 task, and in the third issue, intra ID SSO, I added the 4 tasks. Right. So all are in the to do state right now. Okay. So let's say if I want to add the another column here, how we can add the column? So let's say we can add the column here, effort. So we will find here the effort because we assigned the effort, so we can see how much effort we have defined assigned to each task and everything. So here it has been added effort 1. So if I expand this, so here you can see issue has 8 efforts. So similarly, if I select the issues, so I can add the column here for the issues. I can select the efforts, click here OK, and see for the each issue we can see the efforts here. Right. So now we will go to the sprint. So I click here on the sprint section. So here you can see all the tasks are available here, right? Everything is into the card form, and which we can do drag and drop. So from here we can add the dates to our sprint. So let's say we have the 10-day sprint. So I click here the today's date, and it will finish in on 19th, right? Click here save and close. So if I want to add a new sprint, I can click here, select the new sprint. So it will automatically pop up with the next 10 working days sprint, because first sprint was of the 10 days. So second sprint, it will automatically pick the 10 days. I'll give the name sprint 2 and click on the button create. So if you can see, there was no task or even no issue is assigned to the sprint 2. So that's why sprint 2 is empty, right? So if I go back to the backlog, right, and let's say I will assign this task, this issue to the sprint 2. Right? I will click here, and from here I will change to the sprint 2 and save and close. Similarly, if I go to the task and click here and assign change to the sprint 2, click and save. Now if I go to the sprint, so here I can see in the sprint 1 I have only 2 issues, which is first is the static code and analysis, and next is the intra ID one. If I click here on the sprint 2, I have the issue dynamic code analysis and the task is tool analysis. So in this way we can change our issues from sprint 1 to sprint 2 or another sprints, right? So if I click here on the sprint 1, so here everything is unassigned, so I will quickly assign to myself because there is only one user. So you can, let's say, you can see here I assign, now the user is changed to the DevOps Consultancy and Solution. So you can easily drag and drop here to the change the status of any task. So right now, few tasks out of, yeah, so 6 tasks are still in the to-do state and the 4 are in the doing state, right? And nothing is done. So let's say you want to add another column here into the task board. So you can click here on the column option, right? So here you can add the another column, right? So after doing, I want to add another column, review. Right. So if I click here and save, the new column will be added into the task board. So here you can see the new column has been added. So similarly, I can drag and drop my task and change its status also. So let's say I change the status of couple of tasks to the done. So this is done. Let's it be review, web server, make it doing, right? And similarly, let's say I will change the status of this to the done. Role definition will be review, create user is doing state. So this is our task board where the couple of tasks 3 tasks are in the to-do state, 3 are in the doing state, 2 are in the review, and 2 are done, right? So if I click here on the backlog, so you can here also see the status of the different issues and the tasks. Okay. So in the capacity, so this section is basically you can assign, you can decide the capacity of your team for this particular sprint. You can add here how many days that particular team member is off. You can assign that this particular user, how many days he or she will work on the development, or how much time it will spend on the documentation requirement, and here you can add the capacity. So capacity is based on per day, right? And next is the analytics view. So in the analytics view, you can see the burn down charts or burn down trend, you can say, of your current sprint or any sprint, you can say. So it will show the start date and the end date. And next it is the backlog work items, what items you want to track, whether issue or the task. So currently it is a task, so I have the 9 tasks which are currently in the remaining state. So if I go for the count of work items, so it will show 20% is completed, 8 tasks are remaining, right? So next is the board. So in the board you can see here it is based on the issues or the epic. So you can track your epic, or even you can track your issues. So let's say if I click here on the issue, you can change the status of your particular issue. It is in the doing state. So if I click here, it will show you how much task is completed. So this task environment provisioning is done, rest of the tasks are not completed. So similarly, if I click here on the intra id one, so let's assign to myself, and if I see here, the one is completed and rest remaining 3 are still in pending, it is not completed. So let's say I will change status to the doing. So similarly, if you want to add the another column here, so you will just click here on the configure board setting, right? Go to the columns, and here after click here on the doing next 3 dots. If you click here, you can get an option insert left or insert right. So I click here on the insert right. So new column will be added here. So I will give the name review, and state mapping it will be doing, right? So I will just click here. So here you can see the new column has been added. So next is the work item. So in the work item, you can track your work item and filter them based on your requirements. So let's say you want to just track all the tasks. So if I click here on the tasks, you will see all the tasks, right? So similarly, I can select here unassigned. So it will give me a list of all the unassigned tasks. If I select here which are assigned to DevOps Consultancy and Solutions, so it will give me that. So if you have multiple users, so you can track, you can view all the tasks to us which are assigned to a particular person, and then based on that you can see what are in the what are the status of those tasks, right? So there are a couple of other options are there, doing or to do state, which area it is, which is it part of the which process or the area, and the tags. So tag is the feature which let's say I will click here on the sonar cube, right? So here you can add the tags, right? So if you click here on this tag, you can add the tag. So let's say I will add the tag here sonar cube, right? So I will click here save and go back to the work item, right? So there is only one task to which this tag, if you can see here, the tag sonar cube has been added. So let me add this tag to another task. So I will add this tag, right? Click and save. So if I go back to the work item, so here I can filter the task based on the tag also. Here I will get the tag. So if I click here, so it will give me a list of those 2 tasks. So this feature is really helpful because it will help this in the work item. You can view all the item and then filter those items based on your requirement. So next feature is the queries. So if I click here on the queries, you can create your custom queries and get the report of all the tasks. So let's say I select here work item is, right now it is any. So if I select here task and run the query, it will give me a list of all the tasks. So let's say if I select here any, so it will give me a list of all the work items, whether it's an epic or an issue or the task, right? So there is an option to save it. So if I save it, then I can see the charts. So it is saying chart is disabled for unsaved query. First I need to save the query, right? So if I click here on the result, I can see the results also, and in the right panel I can get the detail of particular work item, right? So let me save this query. So I just give the name basic process demo. So this query has been saved. So let me change it to the task and save it again, right? If I run this query, so I will get the list of all the tasks. So now if I go to the result, so I have the complete list, and in the right panel you can get the details of each task, whatever task, so here you can get. And if I go to the charts, so here you can see now it is saying you can create the chart. So if I click here new chart, so what type of chart I want to create, let's say again I will go for the demo one pie chart. So these are the different options, whether you want bar chart or column, stack bar, pivot table, stacked area or line. So it all depends on your requirement, what kind of chart you want to create. I will select the group by based on the state. So here I will give me a item. So it is here I can change the color for the done or the to do state or the doing. If I click here on the save, so here it will create the pie chart, and it is telling me there are 2 are in the done state, 4 are in the to do, and 5 are still in the doing state. So one thing is, if I go to the sprint, so how to add the comment into the particular task. So if I click here on any task, so here I can add the comments, right? DB server provision, right? Even I can assign, I can mention here any user also to whom I want to address. So if I add, so notification will give to that particular user that comment has been added. So in this way I can add the comments here. So I will save it. So the comment has been added. If you click here. So in this way you can create your work items and track your work item into the basic process, right? So now we will go to the organization name again, and now we will create the process for the agile, and then see how we can create and track our different work items. So I will click here on the new project and create the project demo for agile process. So this is a private project, and in the work item I will select here the agile, right? So I click here on the create. So now the project has been created. So in the agile process, as I explained you earlier, the portfolio has epics and the features. So first we have to create the epic, and each epic has the different feature. And in the product backlog, we have the user stories, and then inside user story we have the task, right? So let's quickly create the different epics and the different features and user story. So I will click here on the board. So I will go to the backlog. So here you can see by default we have the 3 iterations, right? So here you can add the another iteration for this agile process, and there is no work item or the no dates are assigned to any iteration. So I will close it and add the new work item. So these are the stories. So I have to select here the epic. So there is no epic available right now here. So for that we will I will click here on the configure team setting and select here the epics. Now the epics will be available in the drop down. So I click here. Now the epic is available. I will click here on the epic and create the work item. So first work item I will create the continuous security. Next I will create continuous integration. Next is operation readiness, and last is the compliance and governance, right? So in this epic I will create the new feature. So I will click here. Here you can see the option is available, new feature. I will click here and add the new feature. So I have give the name static code analysis. Same I will give the description, right? By default it is assigned to the iteration, which is iteration 1, right? And state is the new one. Here I can define the efforts if I want, and here I can define the start and the target date for this feature, right? Similarly I can attach this feature to the deployment pipeline if I have, or the development repository if required, right? So I will click here on the save and close, right? Similarly I will add the new feature here, which is the dynamic code analysis, right? So I will click here and do the save and close, right? So in the first static code analysis I will add the few user stories and then add the task into that user story. So if I click here on the feature, so here there is an option to add the user stories, right? So I will give the user story name environment provisioning. Same I will give the description. You can see the iteration is selected by default, the iteration 1. So here in the agile methodology you can give the story points, because agile is working in the story points. You can define the story points here. Here you can define the acceptance criteria for this user story. So whatever the acceptance criteria to complete this user story, you can give and the complete detail here. So once it will be reviewed by the testing team, or it will be reviewed by the lead, so they can compare those results with the acceptance criteria and then mark this as the done, right? So I will click here on the save and close, right? And I will add the another user story here. Okay. Similarly, yeah. So if you can see here, I will add the tag here. Let's say I will give the tag here sonar queue, right? And save and close. Similarly for this, I will give the sonar queue. Right. So I added the tags also. So now I will add the few tasks to these each user story, right? Then we can see how these users, how it will look into the sprint, and how we can track those our work items. If I go to the user story, if I move my mouse on the plus button, it will ask me the option whether I want to add the task or the bug, right? For here I will select here the task. So I will add couple of tasks here, right? And give tag here. So quickly I will add couple of tasks to each user story. So now here you can see I have added the couple of few tasks to each user story. So let's say I want to add the bugs also here for the any particular user story. So if I click here on for the first user story, which is environment provisioning, I click here on the bug and add the bug here. Let's say the bug raised is the database backup field. Right, I click here, and here I can define its priority, whether this bug is priority 1 or 2, 3 or 4, right? Similarly, its severity, whether it's critical, high, medium or low. So let's say I give the high, right? And priority is 1. So here you can also give the more detail about the system information, right? What are the information about the system? You can provide the information here. So I click here save and close, right? So now you can see the one bug is added. So similarly I will add the another bug here in this particular user story. So priority 2, severity 3, right? System information right now I'll just paste here same one and save and close, right? So here, so in this way you can add your multiple work items, whether it's a user story or the task or the bug, into a agile process. So now our backlog is ready. If I go to the sprints, so here you can see, yeah, here you can see different user stories are there, and each user story has different tasks and the bugs are available. Similarly for the, right. So this is my iteration 1. So there is no date set for iteration, so I will click here and set the dates. So it will start today and it will end in 10 days, 10 working days. So now the 10 working days is set. So now if you want to add any column, so same process, you have to go to the column option. After resolve, let's say I add the new column here, which is the review, right? Bug state, whether I want to mark it as a resolved after review. So let's say, and for the task, it will be active one, right? So I'll just click here the save. So now you can see the new column has been added. So similarly, I can select the user here to whom I want to assign. So you can easily drag and drop and change the status. Let's say configuration is in a review state, web server setup is resolved, web server redirection is active. Okay. So if you note, this task is not assigned to anyone. Let's say if I am working on this task and I change its status, it will automatically assign to myself. So I will change this to the active and it is assigned to myself. So my user is DevOps Consultancy and Solutions, right? Let's say I will make it as a closed, SSO is also the closed. So now if we go to the analytics view, right? So here you can see in the burn down trend, you can see if I click here on the counter, 20% work is completed and 8 work items are still in the pending state, right? So same way if you go to the board, so here you can track your user stories. So these are my user story. So if you see, this user story has 4 items, 4 tasks and the 2 bugs, right? So this is in the active state. Right now I'm working on this one. Similarly, this is in the also the active state. As I move, so it will assign to myself, right? So same if you want to add the another column into this, so here you can click on the configure board settings, right? Go to the columns and add the column. So after resolved, if I click here on the column option menu, so if I click here, so it is saying insert right or insert left. So I will click here insert right. So I will give here the review option and user story is active, new or resolved. So it will be active until it will be reviewed, right? So I'll click here, save. So here you can see the new column has been added. So, yeah. So in the work items, you can have a list of all the work items which you can filter, whether you want to just see all the bugs only or all the epics or just you want to see the tasks, right? Similarly, you can check the assigned one based on your user, any user, check its state. So you can, based on the multiple filter options, you can have your you can have the list of the work items which you can track. Query section is the same as I explained you in the basic one. So here you can run the new query and do the analysis part. So hope you learned about how to create the process for the agile, how to create the work items in the agile process and how to track those work items, right? So now I will show you about the for the Scrum process. So Scrum process is also quite similar to the agile one, but the only difference is in the agile we have the iterations and but in the Scrum we have the sprints, right? Rest everything is same. So now I will click on the my organization name and create the new project for the demo for the Scrum process. So I will click here on the new project, right, and give the name here demo for Scrum process, and in the advanced I will select the option Scrum, right. So I will click here the create. So now the project has been created. So as I told you earlier, so in the Scrum process, so we have the in the portfolio backlog we have the epics and the features, or in the product backlog we have the product backlog item, and in each product backlog item we have the task, right? And we can also configure the bugs also. So I will go to the Azure board, right, and click here on the backlog item. So in the backlog items, here you can see we have sprints, not like in the Agile we have the iteration. So in the Scrum we have the sprints. So by default there are 6 sprints. Here you can click here and add the new sprint, or add the sprints from the sprint section also, right? So I will just close it and create the work items first. So in the option there is no epic available, so I will click here on the configure team setting option and enable the epic. So now the epic will be available in the drop down. So here I will click here and select the epic. So quickly I will create the couple of epics here. So I will create the new work item, continuous integration, continuous security, operation readiness, and the compliance and governance. So now the 4 epics has been created. So if I click here on the epic, so here I can add the feature. So in this security one, I will add the same feature which I created earlier, like the static code analysis. Give the description here. So here you can see it has by default the state is new, and the reason for is the new feature, and it is assigned to the first sprint, which is the sprint 1. Iteration is the sprint 1. So here I can select the different sprint also if I want, right? So I can define here the start and the target date for the particular this feature. You can see the efforts. So I can define here the efforts, how much working days I need to complete this task, right? So similarly, I can assign this feature to the development Azure repository, and for the deployment I can attach to the particular release pipeline, right? And here you can define the acceptance criteria for this new feature, right? So I will click here, save and close. So I will add the another feature here, which is the dynamic code, and click here, save and close. So in the feature I will add the backlog item. So if I select the static code analysis feature, if I click here on the plus button, so it will asking me the 2 options, whether I want to create the product backlog item or the bug. So if I will select here the product backlog item, so I will select here the product backlog item, right, and give the description here the same one. So similarly you can see the iteration is by default selected sprint 1, and you can add the tags here. So I will add the tag sonar cube. So effort, I can define here the efforts and the acceptance criteria also. So I give the same the name, just the environment provisioning for the demo purpose. So I click here the save and close. So similarly I will add the another backlog item. Here I will click here on the feature and add the another one, the intra ID SSO. SSO connection should work. User should be able to log in. So whatever the acceptance criteria you can define here, right? So I will just click here, save and close. I will add the couple of tasks for each product backlog item. So then we can see how we can track those into the sprint and how it will look like into the work items, right? So quickly I will add the couple of tasks to the each product backlog item. So this is the task one which I'm creating. So it is by default assigned to sprint one, and here I can define the remaining work. So how many days I have defined for particular feature or the product backlog. So based on that, I can define the work item number of days for each task assigned, right? So I will click here, save and close. Now add the another task. So now configuration, add the another task, web server setup. So now I have created the 4 tasks into the first backlog, and similarly I will add the another 4 tasks for the second backlog item. So now you can see I have added the 4 tasks for each product backlog item. So in the agile process, you have seen in the user story, I can add the task and the bugs. But in the Scrum process, so we cannot add the bugs into the product backlog. So bugs will be added at the feature level. So if I click here, I can select the bugs. So in the feature level, I can add the bugs, which will be parallel to the product backlog. So if I click here and add the bug here, so let's say the first bug I will add the same like DB connection failed. So I can define here the step one, whatever the steps to replicate it. So system information I can define system info and the acceptance criteria for that particular bug. And here I can define the priority and the severity of the bug, whether it is critical, high or medium or low. And the priority is 1, 2, 3 or 4. And similarly that bug I can see attached to the particular deployment pipeline, and also I can attach it to the particular code repository for the development. So now I click here, save and close. So now the first bug has been added. So if I click here, so here you can see the bug has been added at the feature level, right? So if I see here in the feature, there will be 2 product backlog item and the 1 bug. So I will quickly add the another bug also. So in this feature I will add the bug. So I will give it the critical and priority 1, save and close. So in this way, in the backlog item, we can create the epics, features, product backlog, task, and the bugs, right? So now if I go to the sprint, so in the sprint sections, you can see whatever the work items are attached to the sprint 1 or the particular sprint. So if I select the sprint 2, so there is no work item for the sprint 2. So there is only one for the sprint 1. So let's say if I go to the backlog item and attach one user story, sorry, one feature to the sprint 2. Let's say I will select this and attach to the sprint 2. So click save and close. So in this there is no backlog item, so I will create the quickly the backlog item here. So now it is automatically showing sprint 2 because the parent feature is sprint for the sprint 2. So I will click and save and close. So now if I go to the sprint section, so here if I drop down and select the sprint 2, so now you can see the one work item, which is the one product backlog, is assigned showing for the sprint 2. So now I go to the sprint 1. So here the first thing first is I will set the dates for this particular sprint, right? So I click here, I can set the dates. So this will be, it will start today and finish in 10 working days, right? So now it set the dates for this sprint. Similarly, I can set the dates for second sprint also, which will start from 20th and it will finish in 10 working days, will be 2nd of April. So in this way, I can set the dates for our sprints, right? So by drag and drop, I can check the progress of the work item. So let's say I assign to myself. So this is also in progress state. So for Scrum, we have to do in progress and done state. Let's say I want to add another column. So I will click here on the column. After progress, I will add a column like review, right? And save here. So now the new column has been added into the sprint dashboard. So here I can do the drag and drop and track my particular work item. So let's say this is, let me mark it as a done. Define roles in progress, it's in a review, and create user and is also in progress, right? So similarly, if I go to the analytics view, I can see the burn down chart. I can select here work items. So it will say the one is completed, so 12% is completed, 7 are remaining. So if I come here, it will show me on the burn down chart that 7 are remaining, total are 8 in scope, and idea trend is 6.3, right? So if I go to the work item, so in the work item, I can filter my work item based on my requirement. Let's say I want to see all the tasks. So these are the tasks. So let's say I want to see all the bugs, not the tasks, anything. Let's say I want to see bugs which are assigned to me. So there is no bug assigned to me. So let's say I want to see the tasks which are assigned to DevOps Consultancy and Solutions. So in this way, I can filter my work items and see the different, see the status reports, right? So similarly for the queries, as I explained earlier, so you can create the new query here in the query section and run the query. So you can define whether you can add the new clause here if you want, based on your activity which is equal to development, anything. So let's say run this query. There is no activity which is attached to the development, so that's why it is not showing. So I will close it, and so here you can see the list of the work items, because I selected work item any, so it will show me epic, feature, product backlog, and the task also, even bug also, right? So I can save the work, save my query and see the charts. So in this way, we can create our work items, epics, features, backlog items, and tasks or bugs into the Scrum and track those work items, right? So now I will show you how we can create the work items into the CMMI, which is Capability Maturity Model integration. So here we will create the new project for the CMMI, right? So I will click here, new project. So it will be demo for CMMI process, right? So here I will select the process will be CMMI. So in this CMMI process, we in the portfolio backlog we have the epics and the features, and in the product backlog we have the requirements, and we in the each requirement we can create the task. So in the agile process it was the user story. In the Scrum it was the product backlog item, and in the CMMI it is called as the requirement, but rest of the process is same. So in the CMMI also we can create the change request, reviews, issues, and the risk, which is a part of our change and the risk management, right? So I will show you how we can create them and how we can make them visible and track into the sprint board, right? So let's go to the board. Here we can go to the backlog item, In the backlog item, we can see currently there is no backlog, and in the planning we have the 3 iterations available, right? So I will just quickly close it. So there is no epic available, so I will click here on the option and select the epics and save. So now the epic is available here. I will select here the epic and create the couple of epics. So I add the new work item which is called the epic. So I will add the continuous integration. I will add the another epic continuous security. Add the another epic operation readiness, and then compliance and governance, right? So I have added 4 epics. So in the epic, I will add the feature here. So if I go to the epics, the continuous security, if I go to this plus button, so I can add the feature here. So if I click here and add the feature, right? So give this feature. So by default, it is selected the iteration 0, which is the first iteration 0. So here I can select the start and the target dates for my this feature. I can define the efforts here, how much effort is required to complete this feature. Here I can define the tags also, like sonar cube, right? So here I can define the effort like 8, start dates and start date, target date. Let's say start date is today and the end date is 11th. Here I can assign, I can attach this feature to any particular release pipeline or even to the development for the Azure repository, right? So I will click save and close this feature, right? Similarly, I will create the another feature which is the dynamic code analysis. I will click here and add this feature, and for this feature I will attach to the sprint 1, right? And add here the desk, right? And yeah, effort will be 10 days, and click here save and close. Here you can see on the dashboard the efforts is mentioned here, and the tags are also mentioned here. So if I want to see the column option, I can click here. So what column I can add? I can see the multiple columns here. I can add the columns also here, right? Now I will add the requirements for this static code analysis feature. So I will add couple of requirements like environment provisioning. What are the impact assessment? I can define, we can define the assessment here. Its priority of this requirement, right? And how much effort it is required. It is the based on the hours, right? It is not the days. Right? So click here, save and close. I will add the another requirement. So this requirement will be intra id sso. So I will click here save and close. So now I have added the 2 requirements under this feature. So now next is I have to add the tasks. So I will quickly add the couple of tasks in each requirement. In the requirement there is an option for task and the bugs. So I will add the 4 tasks and 2 bugs here, same like the agile and the scrum process. So I will add here. So first I will add the task. So by default it is assigned to the iteration 1. So here there is an option, we can define the efforts original, remaining and completed. So let's say I assign 10 hours, right? And I completed my work in 8 hours. So while closing this task, I can give the my working hours here. So I will click here, save and close. So similarly, I will quickly add couple of tasks here. So now the 4 tasks has been added to the first requirement, environment provisioning, and similarly I will add the 4 tasks for the SSO1. So now I have added the 4 tasks in the second requirement, which is enter ID and SSO. So now I will click here on the first requirement, environment provisioning, and add the 2 bugs. I will click here on the plus button and add the bug here. Right. So here you can define the symptoms and how you can replicate it. So here I can add the system information, and in the when the any developer is working on it, or any DevOps engineer is working on it, so he can provide the detail of the fix also, what fix has been provided. So it will be easy to track the bug, and if that bug is reopened, then we can see what was the fix provided earlier and how what changes are required, right? So here I can define the priority and the severity also. So severity will be critical, high, medium and low, and priority will be 1, 2, 3 and 4. So I will click here save and close, and I will create another bug, which is the read connection failed. Okay. So now I have added task and the bugs into the work item. So now I will go to the sprint, right? So here same way, so we can track our work items in the card form. So here I can drag and drop to see which item is in the close state, or which is in the active, which is in the, you know, backlog. This bug is in the active state, this resolved. So here in this way we can track our work items. So here I can define the start date for this iteration. So let it be the 10 working days. I will make it close. So if I go to the iteration 1, so there is no work item assigned to the iteration 1 right now. So iteration 0. So same in the analytics view, you can see the burn down chart here, right? So it is saying 20% work is completed, remaining 8 is pending. Out of 10, 8 work items are still pending. Right? So if I go to the work item, so in the work items, you can view your work item based on your filter. So here you can filter your work item, whether you want to see the bugs only or the task also. So multiple options you can select, whether task which is assigned to DevOps to particular user. In my case, it is DevOps Consultancy and Solution. What is the state? How many bugs or the tasks which are in the resolved state? So here in this way you can track your work items in the work item board. So as I said earlier, in the CMMI you can create the change request, review, issues and the risk also. So now I will show you how you can create these work items, and how you can track them, right? On the work item section, here you can, if you click here on the new work item, so here you can see you have an option for the change request. You have an option, you can have review, risk and the even test cases and the issues also. Let's create the work item for each type. So I will select here the change request. So now the change request, this page has been opened. So I will click here the demo work for change request CR. Here you can give the description. You have to provide the justification, right? And what is the priority, what is number of efforts you have to provide, impact on the, because this is a change request, so you have to give a lot of detail about what is the impact on the architecture, user experience, test care, design, all these details you have to provide. And one more thing is, here you have to mention here to which work item you want to attach the parent work item. So I will select here the parent work item will be the my requirement. So my requirement is the environment provisioning, right? So I want to attach to this work item, right? So I will click here on the add link. So now the my work change request work item is attached to this parent work item, which is the environment provisioning. So I will click here save, right? And so I will go back to the work item. So now this change request work item has been created, right? So similarly, if I click here new work item, I will create the issue. So I will just give the name here, demo work item for issues. So I'm just giving this option because it will be easy for us to track into the sprint, right? So similarly, I have to give the description. So analysis, what is the analysis of particular issue, and what is the plan, and what will be the actual resolution when we do mark it as a resolved or the done state, right? Similarly, you have to provide the efforts, and again you have to attach it to the particular work item, which will the parent work item. And in the analysis, you have to mention whether it is a critical, high, or the medium, right? So I will attach to the requirement work item for the environment provisioning, right? So I will click here, add link, click here, save, and this issue has been created. So I will go back to the work item. So here you can see the demo work item for issue has been created. So similarly, I will create for review and risk. Quickly, I will click here for the review. Right, and here you have to define the purpose, minutes, everything, all the detail you have to provide, right? So it will be again attached to the work item, so which is the environment provisioning, right? I add here. So it is saying you have to provide the purpose. So purpose is this one. So I will just copy paste here. Yeah, click here, save. So go back to the work item. So now the review has been created, and last we will create the risk. Give the description. So here you have to provide the more details like the priority, because this is a risk, so you have to define the priority. It is 1, 2, 3, or 4. Similarly, severity, whether it is critical, high, or medium, right? So here it is the option, the classification, that is mandatory. You have to give the classification here. Probability, so what is the probability of this risk? Let's say I will give the 2. So you can, according to your requirement, you can define the probability for that particular risk, right? So again, I have to attach this to the particular parent work item. So I will attach to the work item requirement environment provisioning. So why I attached all the 4 newly created work items to the one, so it will be easy for me to track, and it will be easy for you to see into the in this demo, right? So I click here, save. So now I will go back to my work item. So here you can see 4 work items: demo work item for risk, demo work item for review, demo work item for issues, and demo work item for change request has been created, right? So now I will go back to the sprint, right? And if I click here on the task board, so in the task board here you can see those newly created work items are not visible. So now the question is how we can see them and how we can track them, right? Sorry, if I go to the boards item, so here also you can see in the environment provisioning, so it is showing only 4 tasks and the 2 bugs only. It is not showing the change request, risk, and the issue or review also, right? So now how we can make it visible? So for that we have to go back to the organization setting. So in the basically we have to create the custom process. We have to create a copy of the CMMI process and then attach this project to that particular process. Now I am in the organization settings. So I will click here into the on the process. Under the board there is a process here, processes. So I will click here, right? So this is the CMMI process. So I will click here on 3 dots and create the inherited process, right? So we have to create the custom process here, because in the default process there is no option where we can change the backlog level. So in the backlog level, if you can see, the portfolio backlog is defined, requirement, iteration, right? And in the other work item, so these change request, issue, review, risk, these are not associated backlogs. So these items are not associated, and bugs are associated with the requirement one. So basically we have to attach these 4 work items associate with any particular work item, right? So for that we have to create our custom process, right? So I will click here on the all processes. So here we have to create the inherit process. So I will click here on the create inherit process. So I will give the name demo for CMMI, right? And create the process. So now the process has been created. But if you can see, if I click here on the CMMI and go to the project, our project is still attached to this CMMI. So now what I have to do, I have to change the process for my this project. So I will click here, and if I go to the drop down, so here I can see the new inherited process which I created. So it has been visible here. So I will click here and click on the save. So now I will go to the close, and if I go to the processes, so here you can see all processes. So in the demos for CMMI, so now one project has been associated, right? So if I click here, right, and now I will click here on the backlog item. So here you can see this option is now available. So new top level portfolio backlog, right? So now I have to attach these work items to my particular parent item. So right, let's say I will attach to this iteration backlog where we have created the task also. So if I click here on the three dots, I will click here the edit. So only in this backlog item, so only the task is there. So I will click here risk review issues and change request. So I will click here save. So now my all four non-associated items are associated with this iteration backlog, right? So now I will go to the my project, right, which is demo for CMMI process, right? If I go to the board, so I click here on the board. So here you can see now it is all the four tasks, one change request, one issue, one review, and one risk is also showing. So now I will go to the sprint. So in the sprint here you can see all these items are available. So here I can easily drag and drop these work items. I can mark them as a closed or I can mark as active. So now I can change the state for particular work item, like whether for a risk or change request or issue or the review. So if I have to add any column, so I can click here on the column and add the column here also. So after resolve, let me add the new column called review, right? And bug will be in the resolved. Change request is also in the resolved state. Issue resolved. Review will be resolved. Risk will be resolved, and task will be resolved. Right. Click here save. So now the new column has been added. So similarly, I can now here by drag and drop my work item and track those work item also. So let's say this backup is now resolved, reviewed, and closed also. Right. So in this way, we can create the work items into the CMMI process. So now you have learned how we can create the inherited process and add the work items which are not associated, how we can associate those work items to a particular iteration, and how we can track them. Thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you have understood about the Azure board and its feature, like how to create the work items and track them. In the next video, I will talk about Azure Repository Service. Hopefully you have implemented it by now. If not, check this video again and follow the steps in your environment. Let me know your feedback or feel free to ask any question in the comment section or send an email at devopsconsultancyandsolution@gmail.com. If you want a video on any particular topic, feel free to write in below comment section or email me. See you all in next video. Till then, happy learning and keep learning.